This webinar is being brought to you by Jampro in collaboration with the Foundations for Competitiveness and Growth project, which is a joint initiative of the Government of Jamaica and the World Bank. Under the program, Jampro commissioned PricewaterhouseCoopers to undertake a limestone value chain analysis and to package 7 investment opportunities, which will be presented in today's webinar. Before I introduce the presenters, let me draw your attention to the ground rules for this webinar. The webinar is being recorded. All audio have been turned off for participants. If you have questions, please type them in the question box below, and your questions will be answered in the Q&A session, which will follow the 3 main presentations. We will also be able to answer your questions in the box, as well as live by the panelists. No verbal questions can be allowed at this time. Our presenters are Ms. Diane Edwards, President of Jampro, Ms. Fiona Hyman, Partner, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Mr. Norman Nair, Vice President, Sales and Promotions at Jampro. In our question and answer session, we'll be joined by Dr. Oral Rainford, Principal Director from the Ministry of Transport and Mining, and Mr. Roy Nicholson, Commissioner of Mines at the Mines and Geology Division. To start us off and to set the stage, I now invite President of Jampro, Diane Edwards, to make her presentation. Diane.
Thanks so much, Berletta, and good morning, everyone. This is really a very interesting morning where I'm going to talk a little bit about investing in Jamaica's limestone sector. Limestone, we believe, is a really sleeping giant in Jamaica, and one of the reasons we call this little island of ours Jamrock. So I wanted to say, first of all, thanks to the World Bank and the Foundations for Competitiveness and Growth project for sponsoring and helping us to host this whole event this morning, as well as the Planning Institute of Jamaica, which has played a really seminal role in developing our thinking and our technical approach to this sector. Obviously, we have to thank PwC, who have actually done the work of limestone value added sector profiles, which you'll hear about later, and want to thank Dr. Oral Rainford and the Commissioner of Mines, Mr. Nicholson, for joining us this morning and consenting to be on our panel. I know this is their subject matter of expertise, but for us, it's an exciting investment opportunity. So you probably all know that Jamaica is famous as an exporter of bauxite, but actually there's more limestone and bauxite. Our limestone resource is estimated to be 150 billion tons, of which 50 billion at least is recoverable. So we really have a sleeping export opportunity here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about quick facts about Jamaica, which will be a recall for Jamaican listeners, but will be of interest to our non-Jamaican listeners because you don't necessarily hear about these quick facts. So some of the quick facts that we want to show you is obviously we have a very open and liberal economy in Jamaica with an open investment regime and very transparent investment regime. We're actually now working on the national investment policy. But what this means is that your investment in Jamaica is protected by private ownership of land, and foreigners can own land in Jamaica. And that's important because while we Jamaicans take that for granted, that's not true in every country. We have a stable and supportive democratic government. We've never had a coup d'etat in Jamaica. We've always changed government democratically through voting, and we do vote a lot in Jamaica. We're passionate about our democracy. We have an educated and trained workforce of 1.3 million people, and the largest English-speaking country in the Caribbean, and as we like to say, the 3rd largest English in the hemisphere, the Western Hemisphere. We have a really, actually quite a modern economy in Jamaica with a robust telecommunications infrastructure that allows us broadcasting to you today, essentially. Road infrastructure across the island, a lot of investment has gone into that in recent years, so that's now really robust and really crosses the island and allows you to put your limestone on trucks and trucks to the island. We've had 20 quarters of consecutive GDP growth, and that's really important because that was pre-COVID a really strong and robust performance. Also, a reduced debt to GDP ratio. We've seen also foreign direct investment in Jamaica, which has averaged somewhere between 600 and 700 million US a year. The stock of foreign direct investment was estimated at over 17.2 billion US dollars. And I think that for a small country is actually a very powerful performance. In terms of foreign exchange controls, we don't have any. We have a floating exchange rate, the Jamaican dollar floats, and is has been doing quite well within a range over the past period, and I'm talking pre-COVID here. Zero restrictions on foreign ownership of companies and of land, as I said, and no restriction on repatriation of profit. So you're talking about a very open, liberal, and welcoming investment environment. And we've been seeing growing recognition of that investment environment. Recently, the Doing Business report, we moved up 4 spots to number 71 out of 190 countries. And this is the World Bank's Doing Business report of 2020. So talking a little bit more about things that would be important to you in the limestone business, strong air connectivity. Actually, Jamaica, if you look at where we are located, and location is one of our most powerful advantages, we are located within a 4-hour flight radius of over 500 million of the world's population. And this chart shows you the concentric circles that look at where you can reach from Jamaica. And we used to have 400 international flights a week going out of Jamaica, obviously not during the COVID period, but we will slowly ramp back up to that level. It is expected. We have reopened our international airports, so we are slowly reopening the economy for business. And then, of course, of import to you is a strong sea connectivity. And the next slide looks at the sea connectivity, with Jamaica having the #1 transshipment port in the region, which is the port of Kingston, which is a containerized port, but we also have bulk cargo going from the port of Kingston. We are home to the 7th largest natural harbor in the world, which is Kingston Harbor, and we have a number of commercial ports around the country, from which you can export commodities such as Port Esquivel, Reynolds Pier in the north, Port Kaiser in the south, and Port Esquivel in the south. So the opportunity to truck your product from your quarry to a port makes it really easy to export from Jamaica. And so why should you put your limestone opportunity, your limestone manufacturing and processing opportunity in Jamaica? Because actually, as I said, we have those fantastic limestone deposits. And what is most important about that is that this is high grade. I know high grade is often used to refer to another product, but in terms of limestone, what it means is that we have 95 to 98% pure calcium carbonate for processing. And really, I want to stress the question of processing, because what we're about here is not so much export of aggregate, which we have been doing, but we really want to look at how we can improve our value-added processing of this great mineral that we are blessed with. So we actually, one of the big opportunities for you to process your limestone would be in the special economic zone, you duty-free import and export and a lower corporate income tax rate, or using a manufacturing incentive, which allows you, again, duty-free import of capital equipment and raw materials, according to a productive input relief list. The minerals industry policy, which is now being promulgated, will also offer you tax incentives for mining. because mining is excluded from the special economic zone. So just as a snapshot of Jamaica's limestone industry, you can see there are two charts which show you the trajectory of the limestone exports from Jamaica over the last, what is it now, 9 years really. So we've seen a curve that is undulating, and we've seen some height in 2017 and then somewhat of a decline. However, we're not anywhere near the potential that we could reach in this industry. So now I just want to say a few more words before I wrap up about the Foundations for Competitiveness and Growth project, under which our limestone research and development of these case studies, of these investment profiles has been done. So this FCGP, as we call it, is a joint initiative between the World Bank, and this aims to really strengthen the business environment. There's one whole component of it, which is the business environment reform agenda, which is led by Jampro and is really improving the ease of doing business in Jamaica. The objectives of this program are to provide technical assistance, to facilitate strategic private investments that will change the picture in Jamaica, to support small and medium-sized enterprises, and provide project implementation and monitoring and evaluation. So what we've done with the Limestone Value Chain project, and you'll see from this slide that there are the highlights on some of the activities and outputs of this whole program. So really what we wanted to do is to look at the current state of Jamaica's limestone industry, to look at what we need to do to develop the value added aspect of it. So to look at the potential markets and the opportunity, and to look at how do we package the opportunity for to attract new investment into the sector. So that's why we have developed the profiles that we have developed. And these were some of the outputs of the project, to look at a SWOT analysis of what were the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities for Jamaica's competitive position, really, to define that very clearly, to identify the value added products that were of greatest promise, and to look at the development of these investment packages, which Fiona Hyman will reveal to you very shortly. So I just want to say in closing that we at Jampro are very much on hand to help you to realize your business opportunity. There are on the screen now a list of the contacts and the means of contacting Jampro. So you can contact Jampro through any phone, to online, chat, to fax, to everything. And Barletta Henland Forrester, who is our chair this morning, is the one who is managing the limestone and the limestone sector, and will be happy to shepherd and to assist and guide your investment inquiries and help you to realize your project. So thank you for listening, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy the rest of the presentations this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane, for setting the context and for answering the question, why Jamaica? As we are joined by other participants, we invite you to post your questions in the chat, and we will answer as many of them as we can live in the Q&A session, and we will continue to answer even beyond the session. I now invite Fiona Hyman, PricewaterhouseCoopers, to present to us on the findings, the main findings of the value chain analysis done on limestone, and more importantly, to speak in some details to the 7 investment opportunity packages that have emerged. Over to you, Fiona.
Thank you, Barletta. Good morning, all. It is a pleasure to be here to present to you the results of PwC's study done on the limestone industry in Jamaica, and in particular, the potential value-added products that we have identified. PwC has been working with Jampro and the Minings and Geology Division for the past year to look at Jamaica's limestone industry as is, to benchmark it against global producers and other export countries, and to look at the potential to grow our exports and to identify additional products. So throughout this session, I'm going to walk you through some key global trends and the projects that we have identified. So the global trends for limestone include the key global trade flow for limestone is generated in Asia, with the major exporters being the United Arab Emirates, India, and Vietnam. At present, the global market for limestone is about $1 billion, and the Americas at this stage contributes only 3% of that. And when I'm speaking of that, I'm just speaking about the raw aggregates. Go to the value-added products in the Americas, that market is close to about $12.5 billion. And that is expected to increase by about 2% each year up to 2024. The major users of the value-added limestone are the construction industry, the industrial companies such as for chemicals, for food production, agriculture, and also in other uses such as bauxite, etc. The state of Jamaica's limestone industry today. As President mentioned, Jamaica's exports of limestone products have been growing. But right now, Jamaica produces about 3.4 million tons of limestone. Of that amount, only 179,000 tons is exported. So there is huge potential to grow. What is exported at the moment represents the low value-added products, primarily aggregates and marl. From that, we only earn about 4 million US. And as I'll go through further, the market for value-added products in the Americas alone is over 400 million US. Scope for Jamaica to grow. At present, we have about 150 operators. Of that amount, around 15 account for about 93% of the total production, and about 3 or 4 operators are currently exporting. What would set Jamaica apart? What are our competitive advantages? To all, because President has ably mentioned quite a lot of them. One of the key things is that we have a large reserve of limestone, and the quality is very high. So our limestone has a purity grade of about 97%, and that enables it to be transformed into many products. We have a large base, large customer base for our products. The total end user market is about 12 billion US. Where we are located, we're centrally located. We're right in the middle of North and South America. So we're centrally located, and as was mentioned earlier, a lot of the trade takes place from Asia, so that's quite a far place for many of these products to travel. President mentioned as well some of the other enabling factors in terms of the special economic zones. While mining at the moment, the actual extraction would not qualify for the special economic zone, the manufacturing aspect of it, which would be the value added, would enable investors to benefit from the benefits of the special economic zone. So in terms of the value-added products that we have identified, we would have done through our work on this project, we would have been engaged with Jampro, the Mining and Geology Division, as well as other stakeholders. These stakeholders primarily include the existing operators, and as part of our work, we would have conducted site visits for over 15 sites. We would have administered surveys where we heard from at least 25% of the operators. In doing the work that we did, we looked at both large and small operators. Through that, we would have selected 7 products, which were packaging in 5 packages. And these include traditional value-added limestone products, as well as emerging limestone products. The traditional limestone products include ground calcium carbonate, which is used in a variety of industries, including agriculture, animal feed, paper, plastics, paints, and food and household products. Additional product that we would have focused on would be precipitated calcium carbonate. Similar to ground calcium carbonate, it is also used in a wide variety of industries. But based on the specifications and the various products that you're able to get from this, it's also used for daily products such as toothpaste and other food items. The other package that we're looking at as an additional traditional product are the limes. And we have prepared a super lime package because the production process for most of these lime products are relatively similar. And these can be used in a variety of industries, including construction and building, food processing again, paper and pulp, agriculture. The dimension stone is another product that we are going to focus on. This includes building uses for building and construction, decoration and tiles. And the emerging product that's on the that we have included as well is cultured marble, which is weather resistant, and it's used primarily in the construction industry. In terms of the market for these products, as I've mentioned earlier, the value-added products have a wide market. We are focused primarily on the Americas market. So even so, if I were to just step back, if we look at the major importing markets for limestone and we exclude all the ceramic products, we're looking at close to 400 million worth of limestone value-added products that are imported into the Americas. Our current export is about 4 million. So we are basically not scratching the surface of this market. On the next slide, what we've done is to go further and to do a breakdown of all the major importing countries in the Americas, including USA, Canada, Mexico, and Brazil, and the CARICOM, to see what is the value of the imports from these products that we have identified. So one of the products that we've identified is GCC and PCC. As you can see, the total market for that is 62 million US. Right now, Jamaica is only earning about 43,000 US from our exports. So there is a huge opportunity for us to exploit. In terms of the process that we would have, so bringing that all together, what we would have done is and we have done a feasibility study where we consider the market demand. We've also considered the existing needs and the capacities of the current operators in the local market. And in developing the feasibility study, we would have done a top-down approach. And we would have considered 2 main methods for this approach. One is an incremental approach where if we look at the resources of the existing and they add this on as a part of their existing operations, or 2, it's done on a standalone approach where they're started from scratch. So that is the methodology that we would have used. And I'm also from a global firm, so we have to have our caveats. So we would have done this, this is a top-down analysis. We would have conducted research, and these are estimates. So of course, what we're projecting may be different, but this, we think we would have done sufficient work to be very confident in what we're presenting. The first product that I will speak about is ground calcium carbonate. calcium carbonate is one of the traditional value-added products. It's fine in texture and it's used primarily in the agricultural sector, animals, pets, paper, plastic, etc. As we've noted before, the overall market for this in this region that we've studied is about 62 million. Doing our analysis, we would have looked at what percentage of the market we think we can capture. In our analysis, we would have made quite conservative assessments where we're only projecting sales of about 2 million per year. In terms of the capital costs, we would have looked at it, as mentioned earlier, on an incremental or a standalone basis. And we are assuming that the plant size that we're looking at is 1,000 tons. Why 30,000 tons per annum? We would have done an analysis of the existing operators and what their capabilities are. And in order not to exclude them from the market, we would have started at that low level. Of course, depending on market demand, people are always free to have a larger size plant. Based on this, we estimate that the payback period for this product is than 2 years. And we're expecting, we've done our investment appraisal techniques and analysis, and this is looking at the project over a 25-year time horizon. And based on that, we're expecting on a standalone basis for this product to generate an internal rate of return of, which is basically a return on your investment of about 33%, and on an incremental basis, 50%. The other product that we would have looked at as well is precipitated calcium carbonate, or PCC. PCC is similar to ground calcium carbonate, except that it is a synthetic process. So when you're preparing GCC, the chemical change, but with PCC, it does. In terms of imports and exports, those two products have the same harmonized code, but the main difference is that PCC gives you greater control over the product, so it commands a higher price, and the production process leads to a better quality of products. Similar to GCC, the market for this is close to 62 million US. And in this case, for our projections, we would have used, again, conservative sale numbers of about 2 million per year. Similar to the development of GCC, we would have looked at the capital cost on both a standalone and incremental basis. And of the changes in the production process, it's a little bit more costly. So the payback period for this and the profit margins for this product is slightly lower than GCC. And at a typical investment could be recovered over between 2 to 3 years. The expected return on this product is close to 25% to 32% over a 25 years on. The other products that we would have looked at would be the super lime package. And this considers 3 types of lime products: quick lime, slaked lime, and hydraulic lime. Quick lime and slaked lime so as mentioned earlier, we have grouped the lime products together because they have a similar production process and they can be used together to get economies of scale. Quick lime and slaked lime would be profitable on their own, but based on the limited demand for hydraulic lime, we think that this could be incorporated as part of our overall lime plant. The main uses of quicklime and slaked lime are iron and steel, food industry, paper and pulp, used in buildings and construction. Hydraulic lime, while it is used in the construction industry, tends to be used mainly for statues and mortars, etc. And I think that will explain the limited demand. So again, so if we look at the total markets for these products, the total value for these of this market is close to 200 million US. For our total sales, we have estimated close to 3 million per annum, and the construction costs, similar concepts that we would have used in terms of looking at incremental land costs, equipment, power, water setup, etc. And of course, having a contingency cost. We estimate that the payback period for these products will be between 2 to 3 years, with an expected internal rate of return of between 24% and 34%, depending on whether it's on a standalone or incremental basis. The other product that we would have looked at is the and dimension stones are primarily used in the building and construction industry for decoration and for use on tiles, etc. The markets, the value of the market for the dimension stone is close to 187 million. This market is quite competitive. So in our projections, we would have only estimated that Jamaica could capture close to 1.5 million to 1.8 million per year. Based on that, the payback period can, if you're starting from scratch, could be up to, or if you're doing it as an incremental product, could be close to 2 years. On an incremental basis, the expected return on investment is close to 30%, whereas on a standalone basis, it's on the low side, so that's close to 4.8%. And so in terms of this product, it may be best suited for somebody who already has limestone operations in order to benefit from the economies of scale. The final product that we would have looked at is cultured marble, and cultured marble is considered to be an emerging limestone product, limestone value-added product. One of the benefits of cultural marble is that it is weather resistant, so it can be used for things that traditional marble would not be used. The market for this is quite large. This is about 1 billion US. That's the market for cultural marble. We've been quite conservative though in our expected sales for this. We're expecting around 3 million in sales per annum, and that would have resulted in a feasibility where we have a payback period of less than 2 years. Expected returns of investment being close to 85% to 122%. So that is it in summary in terms of the 7 products that we would have presented. Details of these products would be available on Jampro's website, and you can, and as Deb mentioned earlier, you can contact members of Jampro to get further details on these projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona, and good morning to our viewers all over the World Wide Web. I want to take the opportunity to just recognize the investment opportunity that's presented by Limestone here in Jamaica. And Fiona has shared with us a number of those investment opportunities. just for a moment is just to take the time to share what is it that we do here at Jampro to help facilitate those investments. Our role is largely as a facilitator. And so in the first and foremost instance, we facilitate the smooth implementation of a number of these initiatives, number of these projects for both local and investors. There's a saying that Jampro is for the small man, only for the big investors. So I want to put that to rest, that we also facilitate a number of our small and local investors through our Export Max program. But in addition to what we have been doing with a number of entities, I just want to take the time to share the role that Jampro has been playing as a facilitator. So we provide a lot of information and guidance on government requirements and procedures for both imports and exports. So specifically, we assist in the completion of documentation and submission of documentation to facilitate the various permits and waivers, etc., that's required by government. We're central in role in providing that kind of support of investors. Then, having made those submissions, we are then working with a number of the government agencies, ministries, department agencies, etc., to mobilize their support in facilitating the approval process. So having made a submission, having made a submission, we facilitate the approval process by working through our relationship with these various agencies. So Jampro is key in the background working with other government entities. And so as part of that, having completed that process, we also ensure that we link our clients who are ready for export with overseas buyers or buyers of any kind that's required for the products that's on offer. So broadly speaking, Jampro is here to support both local and international investors. We're key in facilitating all the permits, requirements. We're integral in business matchmaking, both to local buyers and sellers of the products. And clearly, product that we're looking at this morning is Limestone. So we have been actively engaging with a number of international clients around their interest in Jamaica's limestone. So as we move into the next segment, I just want to bring your attention for further information on all that we do here at Jampro. Feel free to visit our website. That's doingbusinessjamaica.com. And you get additional details, what we do here at Jampro. You get additional session that we're conducting this morning. At this time, before we get into our question and answer section, I'm just going to ask Ms. Berletta and Forrester just to again join us to facilitate the question and answer session that we'll have with our discussion panel. Thanks, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Norman. Let me use this to welcome all who have joined us. We now have over 100 guests, and we welcome you. And we hope to have a very robust and interactive question and answer section. We ask that you post in the Q&A section. I know some of you had posted in the regular chat. We will answer your questions from there as well. For this Q&A section, we are joined by Dr. Oral Rainford, Principal Director, Ministry of Transport and Mining, and Mr. Roy Nicholson, Commissioner, Mines and Geology Division, Government of Jamaica. And of course, we have President Dan Edwards of Jampro and Ms. Fiona Hyman, PwC partner. All right, so to your questions, let's see what we have here in the chat. I see what I would call a bit of a technical question. And I think I'll throw this one over to Roy Nicholson, Commissioner of Mines. The question is, this is a question from Bob Marr. The quicklime and slaked lime process only applies to high-grade calcium products, I assume. What is the lowest grade that can be used for this process? Commissioner?
Morning. In response to that question, it should be about 98%. So it's really for high grade that can be used for that process.
Okay. Excellent. So we're talking high grade stuff, and as indicated.
High purity. Sorry.
High purity.
High purity. High purity. Sorry.
High purity, high grade. It's all Jamaicans. Thank you, Commissioner. As mentioned before, we do have deposits of high purity limestone in various geographical areas of Jamaica. Let me put a question to Dr. Rainford. Dr. Rainford, government policies or policy framework is in place to support and grow the limestone sector?
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and good morning, fellow panelists and the audience. As it relates to directed at the what we call the industrial mineral sector, of which limestone is a part. These include a focus on ensuring that there is access to export facilities, particularly ports, looking at the location of the facilities, ensuring that the quarries and mines are in proximity to these ports, ensuring that they are not in conflict with other land users. So we try to ensure that they have significant quantities of land, significant quantities of mineral resources. They are so located such that they can continue in business for at least for a minimum of 40 years. So we're looking at protecting the resources, protecting them against conflict with others. And importantly, and the Commissioner will speak to this, we have started to ensure that we begin to train persons at the managerial and supervisory levels to man and to head these operations. We have been focusing on the matter of incentives, and we can speak to those a bit later. But those are some of the major policies that are focused on this segment of the sector. Importantly, the National Minerals Policy has been tabled in Parliament since March of this year, and we are expecting for it to be debated and to be concluded such that we can begin to implement all aspects of it without fail.
Thank you, Dr. Rainford. And I mean, it's really great news that the minerals policy has been tabled in Parliament, and that is going to be a game changer in the industry. Here's a question from an anonymous attendee, and I'm going to put this question to Fiona. Was there any market studies completed on the demand for limestone aggregates in the Americas? And if you have the figures on any of this demand, I don't know if you have the figures with you, but the question, did the market study include the demand for limestone aggregates in the Americas?
We have not focused on limestone aggregates because we're looking at the higher value added products. The information that we do have information though on the overall demand for aggregates. And that is something that could be shared after.
All right, thank you, Fiona. I'm going to ask Dr. Rainford to weigh in on this because I know there's some work that has been done previously through the ministry.
You have fine aggregates and you have large aggregates. So let's deal with the large aggregates first, boulders. Boulders particularly for coastal defense armament to protect against the impact of storm surges, etc., etc. There is a market for that, and just now, looking at what work is to occur within the southern section of the USA, the estimation is that in excess of 80 million cubic meters of that sort of material will be needed within the next 5 years, and possibly much more. Already there are entities locally that are lining up to benefit from that. Throughout the Americas, the figure keeps changing depending on what works are being implemented by the various private sector entities and governments, because as you are aware, these materials, the large aggregates, are associated with primarily construction and defensive projects. Defensive in terms of protecting infrastructure, protecting land from ingress by the sea. Now, small aggregates. Sand is a material which is in significant demand. We are seeing out of Guantanamo Bay, we are seeing materials being requested from other places within the Caribbean and, well, the wider Caribbean. Is that there isn't generally an established volume for this material, because some of the materials, especially the intermediate, like the 3/8, etc., these materials don't travel very well, meaning it's very expensive to move them over large distances. In some areas where you don't have huge volumes of construction, you will find markets. What has to happen, however, is that individual companies, individual owners of operations, they have to go and search for markets. That is how this segment of the mineral sector has operated over the last few years. You're not going to find these things listed on stock exchanges, etc., etc.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Rainford. Here's a question for Jampro. I'll put this one to President Dan Edwards. Does Jampro assist local mining operators in finding overseas markets for the mentioned limestone products?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, I think you should know the answer to that. Jampro is definitely here to help with that type of operation. In fact, right now we are working with an importer, potential importer in the Texas area, who is interested in right now aggregates, but who is also interested in looking at value-added products. So Jampro can find importers of your particular product and can help you to get all the approvals necessary for you to export. So we're really a full-service company, as Norman has said.
Thank you, President. A question here for Commissioner Roy Nicholson. If one is interested in establishing a facility for processing high-purity limestone, which license should be obtained, quarry license or mining lease?
Okay. The difference there is quarry material and quarry mineral. High purity limestone is regarded as a quarry mineral. And in that case, you need a mining license, not a quarry license. A mining lease, not a quarry license. Because all minerals belong to the state, while material belongs to the landowner. So in that case, you'll need a mining lease.
Okay, thank you very much. A question here for PwC. What types of investments and deals have been completed previously in the limestone domain within Jamaica and what are the emerging trends?
Okay, so traditionally in terms of the limestone industry that the deals that we've seen relates to integrated producers of, for example, in the cement space, because limestone is a key ingredient to the production of cement. So those are the kinds of deals that we're seeing. We're also seeing companies that they are based overseas, but they have their subsidiaries in Jamaica, are having a vertically integrated operation. We've also seen other local producers, and primarily I think one was in the paper in June, Lidford, where they have been expanding their limestone operations, and I think they recently announced that they have a deal for about $1 million US to for about 35,000 tons of value-added limestone products. So those are what we are seeing at the moment.
And if I could add, Bernetta, there was also an interest in paints because the regional producers of paints have been using limestone in their processes.
Thank you, ladies. And another question for Jampro, while we have you on the floor, President. What is the environment for investment in Jamaica, given the current global challenges around the pandemic?
Well, Jamaica is in recovery mode, like most economies. We have actually weathered the COVID storm very well, and we're very proud of our record. In fact, Jamaica has been recognized by the Miami Herald and a number of global operators as being one of the best countries in terms of the way we have managed the pandemic. We have tested over 11,000 people. We 121 cases and only 10 deaths, which is obviously 10 deaths are regrettable, but I mean, I think in terms of what we are seeing happen around us even today, that's really a very good record. So the Jamaican economy is reopening. We reopened the airports. The ports were never actually closed, so we continued to export. Certain industries were declared essential industries and were able to continue. So the Jamaican economy is open for business and open for visitors. Visitors do have to go through a process of registering to come to Jamaica, so it's not as free and easy as it was pre-COVID. However, we are really open for new investment, and we are actually have welcomed a couple of business people in the last week. The opportunities are there. The opportunities have not changed. A liberal and open democratic system has not changed, and we will be continuing to reopen the economy to its full extent over the next month.
Thank you, President. I have a question, and this is specifically directed at Dr. Rainford because this person says, Dr. Rainford. Similar to the value-added industry, the local industrial fine aggregates can be equally as profitable. Why not improve the export markets for aggregates also?
Well, it's not that we are not looking at all. We are looking at all. In fact, in my earlier response, I spoke to the range of aggregates. I spoke about small or fine aggregates, large aggregates, and the intermediate. What I was saying as it relates to intermediate size aggregate was you have, in a number of instances, a challenge in traveling because that material, we have found in a number of instances, if you don't have the market that requires it, you at times find that you may not be able to compete on prices. The fine aggregates, sand and boulders, you are better able to get better prices. Now, in answering the question in totality, we are looking at exporting all sizes of products, all types of products. What we're doing is making sure that the operations are efficient. The operations are at a size that they're able to compete with others. These are matters that are particularly important. We have said that we are focused now on ensuring that we have at the managerial and supervisory levels to give proper direction to these operations. We are focused on facilitating all levels of the business and exporting all size aggregates. So we're not discriminating.
Yes, no, okay. No, we're not imposing any limits. Excellent. Well, I think this is a question we were trying to answer today, but I will pose it nonetheless. Jamaica's population uses a significant amount of goods made from limestone, pharmaceuticals, decorative, and construction industries, etc. What is the potential for local processing and manufacturing of limestone products, and are we planning to explore these manufacturing potentials? That's the reason we're here today. I don't know if any of our panelists want to comment on this, but this is really what today's session is about. Comment, Berletta. I mean, thanks for that question, whoever asked it. We think that there are real linkage opportunities locally for us to develop value-added products. So for instance, cultured marble. Jampro has done a lot of work on the whole question of cultured marble. You know, this is used in toiletry products, so we can talk about bathroom counters, we can talk about shower, what do you call them, the shower basins. It's used in a number of products. We have a lot of hotels that are being built in Jamaica, we have apartment buildings, we have homes. So why are we not developing the manufacturing capability to develop more cultured marble using our limestone and feeding into that construction industry, which is quite vibrant in Jamaica. So this is why we are talking to you this morning, because we hope that you will seize this opportunity, you will see the light and seize the opportunity to go forward and do this. We actually went as far as taking a group of limestone interested parties, I will say, to the US, I think it was Pennsylvania, to look at a plant that manufactures cultured marbles. So the expertise, the knowledge base is there, but we need the companies locally to seize the opportunity and get into the business. Thank you.
It is important to know that we have been using a fair amount of limestone. Let us look, for example, PricewaterhouseCoopers spoke about cement, a huge quantity of limestone. The construction blocks that we manufacture, and all of them here are manufactured, a significant amount of limestone. Pavers, garden tiles, etc., etc. All of these things. Increasingly, the people who manufacture paint, they are utilizing limestone because we find that entities are trying to replace inputs which may be toxic. So limestone is environmentally friendly, and so it is getting it is being utilized. One of the industry is to begin looking at the range of products that we import and the composition of these products, and see to what extent those which contain a significant quantity of limestone and other minerals can be manufactured here. That is a matter which has occupied our interest, and one which will continue to occupy our interest, because limestone is one of what we call the diffused minerals. You have small quantities being used in a number of instances in many different products, and the extent to which you can understand how the material is used and how you can replace it, or how you can replace it with local limestone, is the extent to which you can grow the sector to an extent. So these are things that we have been doing. These are things that we will continue to do.
All right, thank you. The questions are coming thick and fast. We really have a keen group of participants. Thank you very much. Question, GCC products are very price sensitive, and cost for logistics and energy are the main parameters to make a project successful or not. What was the PwC cost structure to be competitive
exporting products to the USA, for example. Fiona, can you take this?
Sure. So what we would have done as part of the process, we would have looked at Jamaica as an advantage in terms of our labor costs. So while electricity may be on the higher side, we do have that advantage that I think we would need to exploit. What we would have also done as part of the process as well is to benchmark the prices and the margins that we have to the other competitors of limestone. And that would have formed part of our analysis. We would have considered, as usual, the logistics cost and the cost of exporting. One of the key factors that make limestone, etc., work or the exporting is to have access to the port facilities that are closer to the area of manufacture. And those are the things that we would have considered as part of our analysis.
Thank you. Question for Commissioner of Mines. What are the characteristics of Jamaica's limestone geography or geological makeup that provides a competitive advantage?
You see, my audience is listening to the president. They would have known that. Okay, we look at the geological content of limestone and the geographical where it is. Jamaica is actually almost covered by 2/3 of Jamaica is covered with limestone. It ranges from, I'll make it right this time, high purity all the way down to a very low grade. So we move from the very low level, we use that for the construction process. And that is from marl to roadworks, road construction, and all of those. Then we move to a higher level where we look at where that is used for industry, the industrial use, the paint, the paper. And as we move to the higher level, the high purity, this is more than 98% brightness. That is when we bring in the food grade. Look at the food grade and even some of the GCC and all of those. In terms of the geography, we are strategically located. I mean, Dr. Rainford spoke about Guantanamo Bay. If we have this value-added process, maybe we can put it in our backs and swim across to Cuba, at Guantanamo Bay. Okay. Just to say that we are, because of where we are located, we can supply some of these markets very easily if we have the product. And say, Jamaica have a range from very low to very high, and they are not centrally located. In any of the parishes you go, you can find limestone, good limestone that can be used for added value. But through our research at the Mines and Geology, we have like 3 major areas with millions of tons of very high purity limestone. That is in Portland, St. Elizabeth, and St. Anne Trelawney. But the St. Anne Trelawney one is a little touchy, so we'll actually concentrate heavily on the Portland or St. Thomas section.
Thank you.
What the commissioner said. And he is spot on as it relates to the quantities. He would have said, well, in excess of 70% of the country is covered with by limestone or with limestone. Importantly, the material is at the surface. So you don't have to deep, I mean, it is right there. All you need to do is clear the vegetation and you are mining or quarrying the material. He would have spoken to proximity to port. Importantly, the quarry zoning projects that we have pursued have sought to ensure that we are in proximity to ports and emerging communities which are utilizing the material, markets that are utilizing the material locally. So these are 2 important things which help the investor to gain access to well, not necessarily to gain access, but to put him or herself or put themselves in a better position to gain access to the either local or importantly, we have been focusing on the ports, making sure that the ports are able to load huge quantities of material quickly. So we want to make sure that the loading rate is in excess of 1,000 tons per hour. We have been ensure that, as I have said earlier, that there is a buffer zone, so to speak, between the operators and other users so that we minimize conflict. And of course, we have been focusing on the matters relating to proper management of these operations, from the environmental issues down to the matters relating to health and safety, the financing, etc., etc.
Thank you. And it's interesting you mentioned financing, because here's a question for you. Has there been any loans? Have there been any loans given to limestone quarries in the past 2 years? And also, can you give an order of magnitude cost for establishing a high purity limestone processing facility from licensing to product? I know that's a lot of detail. I don't know if you can speak to the order of magnitude, and also, have there been any loans given to quarry operators in the last 2 years that you're...
The last part of the question first. If you want to establish a properly resourced operation, well, it's going to depend on the size of the operation and what exactly you're going to do. But if you're going to need a crushing plant and maybe 2 crushing plants. You're going to need rolling stock, front-end loaders, etc., etc. You will need at minimum $2 million US if you want to have an excellent operation. And it, of course, can go up from there. If it is that you have had or you have these pieces of equipment already, then what you're going to invest is going to be significantly lower. Now, as it relates to funding, have loans been granted? I think the asking, have the commercial banks granted any loans? Because I can easily say, yes, loans have been granted. And I know that loans have been granted. Loans have been granted by individuals and consortia outside of the commercial banks. I am certain about that. Just before we closed the economy somewhat, because of the COVID-19, we were in discussion with Bank of Jamaica, looking at how the sector is structured, what it is that the sector needs, etc., etc. Their interest was to make sure that they understood or they understand the sector so that they can make loans available. The head of the Quarries Advisory Committee is a banker, and he has taken it upon himself to ensure that his organization, I can't give any free publicity to the organization, that understands the structure of the sector, and that entity has been making loans available to operators. Now, the question that persons have got to ask is, do they have a proper business plan? Have they structured the business properly? Because the banks are not the Salvation Army the last time I checked. They want to ensure that you have a viable operation. If you do, increasingly what we have found is that they are to make funds available. But you've got to make sure that you do your homework. Have a viable operation.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Mr.
But I've listened to Dr. Reaver, what he has said, but even before you think of any piece of equipment, you must be able to identify the deposit that you are going to get your raw material from. And in doing so, it's for mines and geology. You need to check with the mines and geology. They would have done the necessary research, they would have done the necessary mapping to be able to guide you as to where the necessary material are and the quality as well as the quantity. So you start there. We'll also guide you into how to get whether your quarry license or your mining lease. So about spending millions in equipment, try and identify where you're going to get your raw material. So stop at mines and geology first.
Yes. Good. Yes.
As part of everything, doing that first and going to the bankers, the due diligence process is very important. So what the bankers would look at as well, in addition to, is there a viable market? Who is also behind the product or the project? Do you have capable management? What plans do you have in place? One thing that is important, increasingly important, is the impact on the environment. How are you going to ensure that you have something that is safe as well? So due diligence is very important.
Thank you. There are some questions about the minerals policy, so I'll be coming back to Dr. Rainford soon. But here's a question for Ms. Edwards. Ms. Edwards, kindly explain Jampro's thought process in putting together this webinar, especially during this pandemic. Are there primary opportunities that the agency believes the country can capitalize on right now? Well, I don't think that because of the pandemic, we stopped business. That's the first thing. Business, as we know, we went into partial lockdown for a period. But I think the importance of this period is to look at opportunities for the future and to plan for those opportunities. So the reason we felt it was timely to hold this webinar is because PwC has done a significant body of work, which we wanted to share with people who may be thinking of going into the business. And we wanted to really stimulate the thought process of business people out there as to what the opportunities and the possibilities are. We have said, and I think Fiona said this very, very clearly, we are not exporting enough. That's number one. We're not producing enough in this sector. We're not capitalizing on the opportunities of the sector. So now when we have some downtime, if I may call it that, is a good time for us to really look at all the opportunities and do, as Fiona said, look at the due diligence, do our plans, work up our business plan so that when we emerge, and not only Jamaica, but I'm talking about the region and the US market emerges from the COVID crisis, we are ready to capitalize on those opportunities which are in the 7 packages of value added product that we can export. So we need to use this time, you know, as several people have said, never let a good crisis go to waste. We need to use the time to think, focus, and get ready for action. Yes. Excellent, thank you. Now to the policy questions. Dr. Rainford, does the minerals policy address the local issues for quarry operators, such as deeming it necessary for contracts between development activities and quarries before construction can commence? Okay. Let me go over that again. Does the minerals policy address the local issues for quarry operators, such as deeming it necessary, I suppose requiring contracts between quarries before construction can commence? And there's another question that speaks to what kinds of incentives, waivers, etc. would be exist now or envisaged in the policy.
All right. As it relates to contracts between quarry operators and developers of projects, the policy does not speak directly to that issue because those contracts are going to be signed on basis. What we have been saying to operators, be proactive. And we, within the ministry, what we have been doing is trying to ensure that before the contracts are signed, once we begin to discuss development projects, we know about them so that we can tell operators that, look, these opportunities are going to arise. We can't go and tell one operator or two. We put the generally because we're an equal opportunity entity and we can't display any bias. So that is our response to that matter. The matter of incentives, it is a fact that the government has been trying to claw back incentives which have been available. That's a fact. But we have been trying to press the Ministry of Finance to widen, for example, some of the opportunities which are available to the bauxite alumina industry, to make those available, or some at least, to entities that qualify within other segments of the minerals industry. And that would include entities within the industrial mineral sector. What we have been doing, and what I know has occurred, is there have been waivers on the importation of rolling stock. So your bulldozers, your front-end loaders, etc., those things. We're looking at ensuring that there are write-offs. We are continuously in discussions with the Ministry of Finance to see to what extent we can benefit, or is within the sector can benefit from the waivers that are available.
Thank you. Here's a question for PwC. Who are the investors who have been historically involved in this space, and are these trends changing?
I think we've mentioned earlier that some of the investors are vertically integrated operators, including the cement companies, and the especially for the value-added ones, we've seen smaller local operators taking advantage of it. I think there are at least 2 to 3 companies that are exporting to the United States, also to as far as Chile in South America. So we're seeing the trends that we're seeing is that people are broadening in terms of not just focused on the near markets, but going after other markets where there is a demand. What we're seeing as well is people who are looking to take advantage of the location, because quite a lot of what imported into these countries is from very far. So if we are quite near, I think people are capitalizing on that as well. And we are seeing people being bolder in expanding their operations to take advantage of value added.
Thank you very much. Here's a question, and I'll read it directly. This question is directed to both Commissioner Nicholson and President Edwards from Jamaica World. Are there any roadblocks or difficulty in getting a quarry license outside of conserved areas? And how difficult is it to get in the quarry business in Jamaica? Please, Commissioner, you want to go first, and followed by President Edwards? Are there any roadblocks or difficulty in getting in the business, getting the license outside of conserved areas? And how difficult is it to get into the quarry business in Jamaica?
Last aspect. It is difficult to get in the quarry business in Jamaica once you have access to that property that you are going to quarry first. However, in getting that license, we have to consult a number of, including NEPA, water resources, and others. And that's 6, National Works Agency, Health, anything that would have the quarry activities would have impact on. Try to consult all those agencies, have their comments before we have forward that license to the QAC, which will deliberate on that forward. However, if there are any form of problem that any of these agencies foresee, there is always a red flag, because we have to ensure that quarrying activities will work harmoniously with the environment. It can't be more of getting, say, more money or producing more without considering the environment. We have to have a balance. So the challenges that you might have when getting a quarry license, if there are problems with really going to the quarry activities, will impact on the environment. That is one of the main things. And we have to ensure that we have a balance to move forward.
Yes, I think just to add to what Commissioner has said, we have to be aware that the world is becoming more environmentally conscious and more environmentally aware. Jamaica is no different. We have a vibrant environmental lobby here, and we have protected areas such as the Blue and Jampro Mountains, such as the Cockpit Country, etc. So we have to, as Commissioner said, be extremely sensitive to the environmental impact of all the projects that we are looking at, because hotels as well have to do environmental impact statements, mining and quarrying. So I think we just have to be very mindful that when we apply for mining licenses, quarry licenses, and any type of development project, that we are very sensitive to the impact that these activities will have or may have on the environment, and that we take that into consideration when we are planning our projects, because as we are going to have to consult with the relevant agencies to ensure that we minimize that impact.
Thank you very much. I think we have time just for one more, as we're coming to the close of this event. This is a question about ports, and I'll direct this one to Dr. Rainford. Port facilities are important for exports to be profitable, and this person speaks to material by road, and we know that. So the question is, given the limited port facilities available for export, how will developing mines in the mountainous interior become profitable?
Unfortunately, we have had a situation where, because of the ownership pattern of land and just the geography of the country, persons have established quarrying operations in some areas where, well, which are outside the economic zone of ports. And so it has, as this caller would have noted, this has caused a significant problem as it relates to the costs of transportation. We have said repeatedly, and as I've said, the Mines and Geology Division has been focused on creating various quarry zones and mining zones, which are in proximity to markets, local markets, and in proximity to ports. The laws of economics and the laws of nature are fairly similar. Now, if you are too far away, it is just going to be very difficult for you to be competitive unless you have a very good product, maybe a very rare product. You are producing at scales that nobody else is able to match, etc. But if you are outside of those, if you're a small operation, I've consistently asked persons to focus on trying to have the operations being located in to the ports. As I indicated earlier, we have been focusing on establishing access to port facilities. I will speak about the Reynolds Pier in Ocho-Rios, which is a former bauxite pier. So we used to ship bauxite through that facility. We have been shipping limestone through that facility. It is a dedicated facility for that and for other operations, but particularly for limestone. We have been indicating to entities that you, at best, hopefully, will be, let's say, within 15 kilometers from the port, an economic distance. That will ensure that your trucking costs will be minimized. We have also been focused on ensuring that there are dedicated roads. So in the case of Reynolds and Lidford, we have a dedicated haul road, which takes these vehicles off the public road, put them on a dedicated road so that they have easy access and direct access to the port. We are going to have to try to do more of that as it relates to other operations. But the truth is, we're not going to be able to do that in the vast majority of instances. So we are saying to entities, we are going to have to, or you are going to have to focus on being closer to the port. It is, unfortunately, that simple, right? So those that are located very in the mountains, I have looked at the economics, and it is just very, very difficult for them to be profitable because of the distance that they have got to travel and the competition that they are against overseas, where you have entities that are just about a mile, 2 miles away from the port. It is just very difficult to compete with that.
Thank you, Dr. Rainford. I want to thank all our presenters and our panelists. I thank our technical support, and I especially want to thank our audience and our participants for your very robust participation. The questions are many and the questions are coming. And we want to encourage you to keep those questions coming. Jampro will respond to the questions that are still in the chat. And please remember that we are your facilitator. We are open to help you. All the presentations done today will be posted on our website, and all the investment opportunity packages will also be posted for anyone who is interested to examine them and to do business. Do visit dobusinessjamaica.com for further information. We look forward to you taking up these investment opportunities, and when you're ready, call Jampro. Let's do business. Goodbye and stay safe.